Ancient technologies. Comments. I keep dealing with this issue over and over again. People constantly trying to bring up the idea of using copper chisels or copper tubes being used to cut granite. And mainstream archaeologists, right, the real historians of the past keep saying that it definitely was copper tubes, it definitely was copper chisels that was definitely used to cut granite, because they found copper chisels, not copper tubes. So think about that. They haven't found no copper tubes, but they believe copper tubes was used to make the holes in granite in ancient Egypt or in any other place. So it's like, okay, we didn't find none of the tubes, but y'all think the tubes was used. That's weird that y'all don't have evidence of copper tubes, but y'all going with this idea that copper tubes definitely was used. Then when people point out, right, the alternative history people, right, the people, about Atlantis and high technology and all that stuff, right, those people are saying, well, since we haven't found any of the things specifically that would be required to, cut holes into granite, it has to be a lost technology, right? Lost high technology. Of course, mainstream archaeologists would be like, no. They just use copper tubes, right? And sand and water. It's like, whoa, sand and water. Where'd that come from? Y'all keep claiming that it's just copper tubes was used, just copper chisels was used, because all y'all found was just that. And y'all claim that that's all that's needed was copper chisels and copper tubes to cut granite, which would be really cool if that's all it takes. But we know that, no, you can't truly cut, not efficiently, definitely not quickly cut granite with copper chisels. It would take multiple days, years, right, to cut granite with copper, because all you're really doing with copper is scratching it, but you're always damaging the copper chisel, so you have to always repair it or replace it, and then keep process over and over until you do some cutting or damage to the granite and try to get some results. But that would take so long that it's not the most optimal or best or smartest way of doing it. And I don't like the idea of trying to make ancient humans seem dumb just because it's easy just to say that they're not smart. And it's like, no, incorrect. Ancient humans are smart, just like they're like us. They're equally as smart as us. So if we wouldn't waste years and years using a inferior, a very long, drawn out process method, we would try to find a faster way, a lazier way, because regardless of what you think, the human race does get lazy over time. We don't like working hard all the time. At some point, we get tired of it. Especially when you get older, you tend to want to work smarter, not harder. So ancient humans definitely did that. They definitely focused on working smarter and not harder. So they would have figured out how to cut granite quicker, which would allow them to create big structures and create a big advanced civilization like Egypt, for example. That's an advanced civilization. Much quicker if they had quicker methods, so then they can mass produce stuff, right? Like our society is based off of that same premise. Once we started, the industrial age, right? Once we started being able to quickly manufacture things out of metal, we just started making everything out of metal, and then did the same thing with plastic, and the list goes on. Silicone, right? Microchips, computers. We went from computers, giant computers that filled up rooms, right? Walls of rooms. And then now we're at a smartphone that I'm using right now to make this video. So clearly, once as humans, we're always going to try to do things faster, easier, right? Work smarter, not harder. So the idea of copper chisels and chiseling away for 20 years to cut one block of granite would be ridiculous. So obviously, they had to use some other methods. So you have to understand what can easily and quickly cut granite or break granite. Well, granite, ironically, granite can do it. You can use a piece of granite to cut a piece of granite, right? You can use quartz. crystal, right, to cut granite, because part of what makes granite is that it has quartz crystals in it, and then some other stuff. But the main thing is to have quartz crystals in it, which makes it tough, which is why it's a tough material to cut. But you can cut it with other pieces of granite. You can cut it with flint, that's capable of cutting granite, and you can cut it with quartz. Of course, you can cut it with something stronger like diamond and whatnot, but pretty much almost anything can be cut with diamond, right? But let's take the diamond part out and just be like, ancient humans didn't have access to diamonds yet, but they had access to quartz crystals, that's for sure. I already showed proof that ancient Egypt, or Egypt itself, they have quartz crystals, white quartz crystals to be exact. So they definitely had access to quartz crystals, which is all they would need to cut granite in Egypt specifically. So, but you want to know what else has quartz crystals in it? That's an abundance and is readily available in Egypt. Sand, yes, you got it right. You're smart. Yes, sand. Sand has quartz crystals in it. Small, pieces of quartz crystals. So you can use sand to cut granite, right? To basically sand it, right? Literally, right? Sand it to be more of a grinding. So can you use like a copper tube, sand and water? Water is to reduce friction, sand is to do the cutting, and the copper tube or wooden tube, right? You can use any type of tube as long as it's a solid tube. You can use a clay tube, right? Clay pot, and sand and water, and create a circle, right? Create a hole. So the thing that's doing the cutting is the sand. It is not the copper tube or copper chisel, so you don't really need copper tubes or chisels. An interesting thing, like let's go with they did use copper chisels to cut granite, but it wasn't the chisel itself, right, by itself. It wasn't just pure copper chisel. They could have dipped the copper chisels, this is the way I think, dipped it into something like olive oil or honey, because the idea is to kind of make an adhesive, to make it sticky, right? To make the copper chisel sticky, and then stick it in the sand. Now you have all the sand stuck onto the copper chisel. Then start chiseling with the copper chisel, or the chisel sand, or the sand chisel, or the copper chisel sand, whatever you want to call it, and then start chiseling away at the granite. Will that work? Yes, obviously. Because here's the thing. I took a stick in my room, because I'm at my house right now, in my office I should say. So took a stick, dipped it in water, dipped it into my little container of sand. I have red granite that I bought from Amazon, and I started twisting it back and forth. I started drilling, and I actually drilled a considerable amount. And I have videos of it, proof of it on the channel. So yes, I can cut granite with a stick, but it's not really the stick that's cutting the granite, it's the sand. And of course the water to make it stick to the wood and to reduce friction and stuff like that. But the sand is the main thing that's doing all the cutting. I also have quartz crystals, so of course I used the quartz crystals and did the same thing just by using the quartz crystals by itself, and the quartz crystal cuts the granite. So sand and quartz crystal cuts granite. That has been confirmed. I confirmed it myself by doing the experiment myself. So it's like, I know for a fact, the sand / quartz crystals, which Egypt does have a lot of in the desert, can be used to cut granite. So it probably more likely was used. So they more likely used quartz crystals and granite. Quartz crystals and sand to do this. Another thing, like I said earlier, was you can use a piece of granite. So you can smash off a piece of granite off of a granite block, right, and then use that as the tip of your tool and chisel away at the granite piece. So you can take a piece of the granite block and use it to actually cut the granite block itself. Just wanted to point that out. It's like people don't know what they should know, and they don't even listen to people like me who know more than they do, which is sad.